Well, good afternoon and happy new year, everybody. My name is Rob Romanowski. I'm the Director of Sales Operations with 3HTI. And today's webinar is going to be an overview and demo of Windchill's Project Link, which supports project management initiatives. And basically, um, in the quest for your company to connect all the different silos of data, and that's kind of what a project manager does with a specific um, product or project. They're seeing everything end to end and interacting with different departments and silos within your organization. So what Project Link does is it helps to connect those silos, makes their job a lot easier so that all that data can be available to all the people throughout the enterprise that they need to see at that specific time. So we're going to take a little bit of a closer look at that today. Zach Carson's going to lead us. He is a solutions engineer and a applications engineer with PTC's Virtual Center of Excellence. Zach always does a great job on our presentations and is very knowledgeable with Windchill and PLM. So Zach, thank you for helping us out today, buddy.
Anytime, Rob. Thanks for having me on.
Definitely. Wouldn't want anybody else leading us today. So
Thank you.
so you have control. We can see your screen. So take it away, my friend.
All right. Well, as Rob said, and as you can read here on the slide, today we're going to be talking about Windchill project management, commonly referred to as Project Link. The whole idea with Project Link is to give you inside of the Windchill environment a secure space to collaborate with people, different departments in your company, different users in your company, and even your supply chain within a sandbox environment that acts or that's known as a project. So we talk to a lot of companies in the industry, and when it comes to project management, most of them are facing pretty similar challenges. Starts with a high need for differentiated products and a constant drive to get that to the market faster. That's a challenge that's not going anywhere. I'm sure everybody on this call has dealt with this to some degree. And of course, everyone, as you're dealing with that, you have the pressure to not just produce more in less time, but also reduce how much you're spending. And that's extremely difficult to deal with whenever you have an expanding market with more options, with more partners, with more vendors. Your products are more complex, and there's intricacies that you have to worry about managing that you've really never had to worry about managing before. So what do these challenges lead to? Well, number one, project delays. You have poor collaboration with vendors and suppliers and manufacturers. You're gonna slow down your production rate. You get quality issues. So if you're not always working with the most up-to-date designs from suppliers, because you have poor collaboration, or even just across internally, but across users or departments, quality issues as a result. Those lead a lot of times to compliance failure. So you might not be meeting certain standards because your supply chain doesn't have visibility into all of the information that they need. And on the contrary, you also aren't always aware of up-to-date information that you're getting from your supply chain. What happens as a result? Cost goes up. If you don't have a secure space to collaborate in, you're also risking your intellectual property. You don't want people that you're working with seeing things that they're not supposed to see. But if you want collaboration, then a lot of times what happens is you have to give them some level of visibility. However, you really want to be aware and cognizant of what you're actually giving them visibility into. The solution that we have to these challenges is Windchill Project Link. And this is going to give you a few things highlighted at a very high level on this slide. So number one, universal data access to the supply chain. You're going to give vendors, you're going to give vendors and suppliers the ability to work with their information within a secure sandbox project environment. So you're only giving them access to their information or to what you want them to see. It's a single source of truth to product data. All of your information is going to be in Windchill in a single repository where everybody tied to a project and only that project can find the information in that project. And then as with everything you do in Windchill, you get full digital traceability of your information. This includes a full history of changes you go through with any of the parts that you're making, that you're getting from your suppliers that you work with, assemblies, and then you can see as those products change and parts change, why certain decisions were made and what those changes resulted in. With that being said, that gives you a brief introduction to what we're dealing with Windchill Project Link. So let's go ahead and jump into the demonstration, and you can see this in action. All right, so I logged into Windchill here. Here's my home screen. We're logged in as Peter right now, who's a project manager. And today we're going to be looking at the I-880 front flip assembly. Before we get into that, I just really want to show you at a very high level, if you're starting from scratch, how you would go about making a project. So whenever you expand your browser at the top, you have your contexts or containers of information. And you can go into projects, you could view all the projects and open one up from there or create a new one. So if I wanted to create a new one, I just click view all, come in here, here's the projects I have in Windchill, and you could see new projects, favorite projects, view in Gantt Explorer. If I want to create one, I could start from scratch. You can use templates. Highly recommend using templates. It's going to speed up a lot of the initial project setup. You can also work and import some projects from other project management systems. Microsoft Projects is a very popular one that people are going to bring in here and build this project off of that. Moving into the I-880 front flip assembly that I mentioned, we're just going to start by opening up your details page. This is essentially your home screen for the project. So you can come in here and see different, usually pretty general information. If I wanted to look at who the owner of it is, a description, who created it, when it was last modified, just very high level general information, I could see it here. And I can also perform some high level actions on this project, such as canceling it, suspending it, completing it. Like I said, you can import it from a file from a different project management system. You can also, excuse me, save as a new project or save as a template to reuse with future projects. In this project, we also have a folders page. So if you've never worked with project management or Project Link in Windchill before, but you have worked with parts and products, the folders in a project act the same way as a folders that you would use in a product. So these folders can contain contents either common across Windchill or exclusively to this project. And then what you can do is actually from there start to say, maybe I want to have project specific variations, or I want to make something exclusively in this project initially and push it to Windchill, to the Windchill common space. You can do that, and it acts as an extra layer of security between the shared Windchill system that you use across your whole company and whoever you have collaborating inside of this project. And you can see actually on the left-hand side here, there's an icon that says shared from PDM. So that's essentially what we're doing with that is we're grabbing data that's shared across our Windchill, our common Windchill repository. We're allocating it to this project. And then what if you want to make changes to this, what you can do is if you convert to PDM checkout, then we can actually grab this from the Windchill PDM system. We can check it out to this project and start to make changes. And those changes, like I said, can live exclusively inside of this project for as long as you need them to until you're ready to push them back to the Windchill common space. Now, with this particular item, the rotating hinge assembly, if you look at the top of the screen, you'll see beside the product name or the part name, we have a new version of this or new iteration, A-1.1. If you've used the standard naming conventions for Windchill, you'll know A-1 or A.1 is very common, A.1, A.2, if you check it out and check it in and so forth. That -1.1 is an indicator that this is checked out and this is an iteration that is living in this project. So we're not iterating on the shared common part across Windchill. We're just iterating on the one in the project for now. And you could go through as many changes on that thing as you need to before you actually push it to the Windchill common space. So where we see this done a lot is with variations exclusive to projects, or even with vendor parts that you have in here that you might be iterating on or modifying to some degree. Then you can wait until they're in a final end item state before actually pushing it to the shared Windchill space and managing it as a standard part. Okay. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and send this back to PDM. So we'll pretend there with that we made a couple changes. We're going to be happy with them. So we'll send it back to PDM. And then what you'll see here is now this part, if this front flip or the rotating hinge assembly, you can see it's back to shared from PDM instead of checked out from PDM. And if I open it up there, it went from A.5 to A.6. And you can see the comment I added in, checked in from project I-880 front flip assembly. So the whole idea with this is security. You have to be able to collaborate in these projects, but you absolutely cannot risk your IP. And that's really what the goal is with this feature. And really just Project Link as a whole. Okay. Beyond just viewing information in our folder contents, coming in here, doing a basic check-in and check-out, like I said, a major concern for everybody is the security of their information. So what Windchill really does a good job with is giving you extremely granular access to modify who can view what down to an individual document if you want to. So here, we're going to edit access control just for this project. Now, of course, this isn't something everybody can do. You would need to have maybe either you're an admin or your IT, or maybe a project manager has some permissions here to come in and tweak some of this stuff. So I want to do that. And then beyond just doing it at a user level or a role level like we're doing here, I can take this same principle and apply it to individual parts or individual documents even. So if I come down here, edit access control just for this rotating hinge assembly, and I want to say, oh, only a designer can look at this, or only a member can look at this. This particular part is not going to be viewable by every person. Right? This is the individual WT part. So these are the different layers of security that you're getting with Windchill Project Link to make sure that you're getting a sandbox to work in with your supply chain and across your departments in your company without risking IP, as I've said. But just keep harping on it because that really is the most important thing here. Now, moving past security, we also have the ability in this project to create new parts in the folder contents just of our Project Link environment. So when you're creating one of these parts, it's just like making any other part. I'll just call this a standard part, and we'll name it demo. And once I create that part, it's automatically assigned a part number. You can set up, if you're not familiar with Windchill, you can set up an auto numbering scheme for yourself if you'd like to. Here, it's just generic. And beside the part, what I want you to notice is where my mouse is. Below this part, you'll see all of the icons that say shared from PDM. This one is not. It does not have that icon. That is because we just made this in this project. It is solely living in this project right now. Whenever you go and make a part in this project and you iterate on it and you modify it and you make this thing perfect, you're not going to have to put it back to the Windchill common space until you're ready. Whenever you're ready, that's when you come in here and you say send to PDM, and then it becomes a shared part to the common space of Windchill. All right. Now, moving into this project plan, this is obviously another big area where you're going to be spending a lot of time. So we've looked at the folder contents, we've looked at the roles and the permissions, now the actual project execution. So in here, just like whenever we looked at the project details page, this is the project plan details page, which highlights the different like start and end date, how far along we are in the project, how much we've spent on it, how much effort in man hours has been put into this, and so forth. You can configure what's being shown here. What you can also do is, if you go to the actions drop down, do a couple actions with this project plan. So you can create a baseline, and that way you can continue to work on this project. And then if something comes up and you want to go back to that baseline, you can do it. You want to revert back to it, that's fine. You can save it or export it as a template. You can import a plan. You can also just view it in a Gantt Explorer. So Gantt Explorer, most people who've worked with project management are familiar with Gantt charts. Windchill will generate one for you automatically. And it's basically going to take what we have here. It's going to take your schedule, and the schedule includes the different phases and gates and all of the different sub steps that go in each one of those, the duration, everything. And you can take all of that and view it in a Gantt Explorer if you want to view it in that alternatively, as opposed to this screen right here. All right, so I got all my steps, my sub steps, my gates, the percentage of work complete, how long they're taking, deliverables I've set up in here to satisfy a few of these different stages. And you can also set predecessors. Essentially, what you're doing is saying, I can't complete number 2 before I complete number 1. So if you look at where my mouse is, project planning has to be number 1. And then the project initiation complete will have to come immediately after that. But I can't do the project execution until I complete predecessors 1, 2, and 3. Okay. If you happen to want to use the Gantt chart, it's really, really simple. You don't have to do any additional work for this. Windchill will just grab your project plan. It'll generate a nice and pretty Gantt chart for you. It's going to take all the information from that schedule and just put it in here. So you can see the breakdown, you can see the percentage completion for each one of those different steps. And you can also see those gold icons indicate where the deliverables are. Right, and you can see who's working on them, the percentage complete they are with their task, and so forth. So a nice high level look at the project execution and progress. Next, I want to go back to that actions tab here. And what we can do from here is a lot of different things. We can create new activities if we want to fill out this schedule. We can do multiple new activities. We can add to the timeline. We can indent and make sub steps, even sub plans from here. We can import, export plans all from here. So really a lot of the usual stuff, that you're used to doing with like parts, if you've worked with parts, but now it's just more of it's at a project level instead. Moving into the team page. So you already saw the folder contents and how we manage users' permissions within the folders. In the team, this is where we're going to go to manage all of the different roles for this project. Who's working on it, what their roles are, what their permissions are, what their description is, email, phone number, everything in case they need to be contacted. And this is really good even from not just an internal perspective, but even a supply chain. If you have suppliers working in here, you want to manage their permissions, but also their information. So now anybody can come into Windchill and say, oh yeah, I have Bill from supplier X. Well, typically what happens, I've been in this environment before, I've seen it. A lot of people know Bill. Nobody has his phone number. One person has his phone number, so you got to track them down, or his email. This gives visibility for everybody. Makes it just really easy. So not the craziest capability by any means, but in terms of visibility and everything, it's huge. On the fly here, what I want to do is just come in and add a user. So this project might already have been started. It doesn't mean I can't add some new people in. If I want to come in and say I have Dave, a design engineer, who I need to start doing some design work in here and modifying some of my CAD models. I can bring him in, say he's a role. Those roles already have permissions assigned to them, but I could tweak that on the fly if I need to, or maybe even just for him. If I want to do that, just come down to add roles and say, all right, maybe this role that I want for Dave doesn't actually exist yet. So I'll just grab one of the roles in Windchill, or I can define my own role and then assign that role unique permissions. When you're ready to define those permissions, just come down to configure actions for roles. So same way that you're adding a user, you add a role, you just come into the same dropdown with the actions, configure actions for roles. So this is definitely not something everybody's going to be seeing. This is your admin, your IT. Maybe you give some of these permissions to project managers, and they can come in and on the fly adjust this. I've seen it time and time again. What happens a lot of times is any of this stuff has to be done by IT, and it simply takes forever. It's not a shot at IT or anything like that, but if you have a new user in Windchill who's just starting with your company or just being added to this project, you don't want to wait around to get them in the system. So giving this capability to someone like a project manager who can come in and be way more on top of it with adding a user in, that maybe they're not bogged down by IT requests from the whole company. Add someone in, give them permissions, they're up and running in Windchill in no time. Last thing that I want to do here is I've mentioned templates a few times. So with the templates, what you can do is basically give yourself a starting point. You don't have to create this thing from scratch. What you can do is reuse existing templates and build this project off of them, or create new templates. So one way to do it is you just go new document template. You define the information. Say it's a document here. And whenever you save this now, this template is reusable. So you won't have to start from scratch anytime you make a new document. There might be just a few different pieces of information that you have in there. But if you're thinking of it at a project level, if you bring in a template, that's a huge head start. There's a lot of the time that goes into starting up these projects is just that initial setup. If you use a template, you can really bypass a lot of that and not only save yourself some time, but make sure you're not missing anything. The user's already in there. The template for the plan's already in there. The documents or whatever are already in there. Giant head start, and you know all the necessary content already lives in that project. Okay. And then lastly here, the one thing I'd mentioned a few times is the Microsoft projects importing capabilities. So from there, you can bring in that project like I showed. And then you can also have some reports in here for looking at all kinds of different information really that we're querying from this project. If it's overdue work or just the general overview for the project dashboard to see the progress, in the form of a chart rather than just a bunch of numbers, at-risk work, a change log, project status, all these things. We have different report builders in Windchill, whether it's just the native report builder, or you can even make custom reports with utilizing the Jasper reporting engine in here too. All right. So that's really what I wanted to take you through for this high-level demonstration of Windchill Project Link. I have a few more points that I just want to share with you to summarize how this can benefit you and your company. Windchill Project Link is giving you the ability to increase collaboration by granting different companies in your supply chain access to their information in Windchill in a secure manner where you work together to access and manage data as efficiently as possible and give yourself complete visibility into everything that that supplier or vendor is doing in your system. Beyond that, you're able to pick and choose what you actually want these collaborators to view to keep your data sharing fast and accurate, but also very safe and secure. We wouldn't be allowing you to do this if you're putting your IP at risk. So we make sure that all of your individual content for your company is wrapped up tight, and there's nobody who's going to be able to view it who's not given the ability to do. Ultimately, what this means is you're going to get your product to the market faster because you'll always be working with the most up-to-date data in Windchill. We give you automated processes, automated version control, and easy collaboration throughout your supply chain. Lastly, with the increased collaboration and data sharing, what are you going to do? You're going to increase your compliance for your products and across your company, and you're going to increase your product quality. So that's it for this demonstration of Windchill Project Lake.
Zach, nice job as always. Thank you very much. Question, can you show how a developer sees tasks and logs time process? Also, how do you create a forecast or a budget? Is that something we can show quickly, or should we do that offline?
Yeah, that's not something we can show quickly, but Andrew, I can send you over some information for that, if that's okay. Yep.
Excellent. Yeah, we're more than happy. We're more than happy to help. Sometimes, things are a little more in depth. So, we have no problem in helping you use Windchill, more effectively and understand it better. So thank you, Andrew. Good questions. So Zach, thank you very much for a great overview today, as always. In 2 weeks on the 31st, we're going to take a look at parts classification with Windchill. And next Thursday, and I don't know if this applies to anyone who's on right now, but next Thursday, we're going to have a webinar for Creo next Thursday regarding additive manufacturing, the additive manufacturing extension, and how to design parts specifically for 3D printing and additive. So thanks everyone for being on today. The recording will be put up on YouTube, our YouTube channel, either today or tomorrow morning, and I will send that to you via email. If you have any more questions or need to see anything more in depth about Windchill, or even Creo or any PTC solution, you can contact us at info, I-N-F-O, at 3hti.com, or simply just reply to the webinar invitations that I send out. Zach, thanks again, and thank you to everyone in our audience. Appreciate you all being on, and have a great